Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's event. To begin the program, please welcome the Associate Director of Recent Graduate Programs, Amy Siegel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are so excited you're able to join us tonight. Tonight's event will feature a presentation by Suffolk's Associate Provost and Executive Director of Career Development, Dave Merry, and will be followed by a Q&A. If you have a question for Dave, please use the chat feature to ask your question. We will do our best to get to all of your questions. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Dave Merry joined Suffolk this past summer and serves as the Associate Provost and Executive Director of Career Development. Dave and his team are focused on providing and expanding career development for students and alumni. Dave previously worked at Northeastern University and is currently completing a doctorate of education there. Welcome, Dave.
Great, thanks so much for having me tonight, and thank you all for joining me. I'm very excited to speak with you all. So let me go ahead and share some slides. All right, so this is a presentation that I hope to give very infrequently in the future, and I hope that it's coming towards its end, but it's an important presentation, job searching in a pandemic. And there are some pretty unique pieces and some extrapolations of good advice for all times, job searching during all periods during this time, that's just highlighted during a pandemic, during our virtual experiences. And so I'm excited to share some of that today. I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the job market, where things are, some of the things that are as bad as they seem, and some of the things that aren't. I'm going to move into some strategies for success. Some of them, again, that are extrapolations of good practice in any time, but some that are unique. Then I'll close out with some resources here at Suffolk in the Career Center that you have access to as alumni for your entire professional life, and especially now where it's most needed. And then, as Amy mentioned, we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So to set the scene, this is a chart from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showing unemployment for people 25 or older. They have some odd breaks, so I was not able to get it any younger without getting to 16 and younger and older. But you can see that we are in a pretty unprecedented time in terms of unemployment. And you see that spike at the end there. And so for those of you who are having a difficult time right now in the job market, I show this to say, it's not you. It is a true and real thing that we are in a very unprecedented time in terms of the labor market. But I also show this just to show that we are recovering remarkably quickly. You can see that slow recovery after the 2008 crash and recession that really took almost 10 years to get back to where sort of the low numbers here in our unemployment. We're recovering very quickly. And so while things have been difficult and are difficult, and for those of you who graduated recently, you're in an unprecedentedly difficult time to be entering the fields that you're in. We're coming back to a more stable and normal state. And just to break that down a little bit, bring it more into focus between last January and this January, you'll notice that we went from 2% unemployment for people with a bachelor's degree or higher to 4% unemployment. It's double, but it's also not catastrophic. And by having a degree and having a Suffolk degree, it's a dampening effect on some of those wild variations in unemployment that we'll see based on this. So as you saw in that previous graph, that green line being people with college degrees, it's less of an impact. And so people with college degrees will bounce back even more quickly than the rest of the economy. So, so there's hope and things are getting better. So most predictions are by the end of this fiscal year, but certainly by the end of this calendar year. So if you are at this presentation, I bet you have also been looking at other resources for how to job search effectively during a pandemic. There are many resources. This is a hot topic in this field of conversation. And I would recommend actually any of the articles that you probably have seen from some of these big players like Forbes or Indeed. I have yet to see very bad information. Some of it's just not helpful, or some of it sort of goes without saying. But I always recommend do as much research as you can. I especially like the Jobcast podcast by Indeed. So check some of those out. But what I've done is, based on my own work and then based on a lot of what I've seen out in the field, try to synthesize this down into 6 points that are specific tips. I shouldn't say tips, that sort of diminishes it. Specific strategies that you can utilize during this time. So the first one is probably going to make you a little upset to hear. It's again, sounds like it goes without saying, and it's hard to hear when you're doing what you can. But let me clarify: being persistent and being patient. Being patient during this time is more important than normal because most hiring managers are working in a knowledge vacuum. They're not sure who they're able to hire in any given month or especially any given week. There are job offers that are going out that need to be done quickly or that need to be rescinded. There are search processes that languish for weeks and months because of the uncertainty in different markets and fields. So the patience that we typically recommend to all job searchers is even more important because there's a lot more uncertainty in the timeline of hiring processes and even the ultimate outcome, whether they can stay open, whether a position can actually be filled. On the flip side, persistence really pays off for the other side of that uncertainty, where jobs are being posted very quickly, and hiring managers, when they are able to, want to hire very quickly and seal the deal. So get someone into that seat as soon as possible once they know that they're able to hire. And so you'll find that jobs that are posted oftentimes reward the people who apply early in the process. And so what I recommend here is thinking about your job search process as a job, thinking about what am I doing on a daily basis to make advancements towards my goal of securing an interview, of securing a new contact, and of getting a job ultimately. And that's where the persistence and patience sort of work hand in hand. The next piece is being flexible with the positions that you're applying for. I'll start with that first clause, being flexible. I think it can be very difficult, especially in your first job after graduating. You have a sense of where you want to be professionally. It can be difficult to think flexibly about that, or to think outside of the field that you intend to be in 5 or 10 years. I want to encourage you to think more flexibly about that, and that's something that we were encouraging pre-pandemic. Getting some industry non-specific skills under your belt that differentiate you in the field that you intend to be in is a huge win for a number of reasons. It sets you apart as a candidate. It future-proofs you if you need to be flexible in the future in your field. So there are lots of reasons why I'd recommend searching for jobs that might be outside your current scope and thinking about how the skills that you have can be transferred into those types of positions. I also want to encourage you to think flexibly about jobs that you might not have thought of because they were under your radar in terms of either prestige or salary at this point. And that's something that you need to sort of know your own situation to think about. I always tell people not to settle for a job, but that's easy to say. Oftentimes people need to have a job. And there's that fine line of not taking a job just because it's there and taking a job because you need one right then. And that's always something that we can help counsel and advise on and get some feedback on. Because there is a real danger in underemployment by taking a job that is maybe not utilizing all of the skills that you have or paying you less than you might be able to get with your degree. It can have long-term effects on your future earning potential. And so if you do need to do that, you want to keep that job of job searching going through that job. Keep having a strategy of how are you going to get that next job after this is all over, after this job that you have to take now, to make sure you're not stuck in an underemployment cycle, that you sort of get back up to where you'd want to be on that trajectory. You can use this time to build more skills, get more certifications. Again, that's something that you may have heard about, but I want to reinforce how important that is for 2 reasons. One, when you do that, you indicate to employers that you are being proactive and utilizing this time wisely, which in and of itself is a really, really good signal to employers. But the other thing is that the skills that are easiest to get some quick certifications or badging or credentialing on are sometimes the skills that are the best differentiators. So they could be a programming language, they could be a particular application or online suite of applications that you can get certifications in now that really set you apart in your field. They may not be related to what you are doing, but by having that certification, you add credibility and add value to your application. So think about all the different skills that people have to pick up in this virtual world. If you can get credentialed in working in Zoom or Teams or online meeting facilitation, that can be a real leg up. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit about how you can showcase those. Building and using your social capital. I write that so I didn't have to write the word networking, but really that's what I'm talking about. But networking has a lot of connotations and has a lot of baggage around it. So thinking about your social capital, Who do you know? Who can you know? Who do they know? And how do you leverage that in an effective way in a job search process? And for some people, I think it's getting the courage to expand to the network, sort of having the value of I'm somebody who's worthy of talking to these people and getting my name out there. I think also sometimes it's knowing that it's okay to ask, knowing it's okay to ask for help, to ask for an in, to ask for a recommendation or a good word in a company. And those are all things that I want to encourage that you do, and we'll talk a little bit about how to get started with that process. Becoming an expert in virtual communication. I say this a little bit later on, but 10 months ago, I think everybody was saying, oh gosh, that's okay. Your cat ran across your keyboard, or you're in your living room and your laundry is folded on the bed next to you. Like, we're just all getting used to this together. At this point in the pandemic, people are expecting that you have a professional presence online, and that you have competency and skill utilizing online media and virtual communication tools. So just making sure that you have that, both for the interview process and also because most jobs now, this is the world, whether it's full-time virtual or having a virtual component. Employers want to see that you can do this well. And then lastly, making your online presence, making sure that your online presence sets you apart. This is good for two reasons. One, there are more applicants for most jobs than there typically are. As you saw in that graph, unemployment's high, so you are in a bigger pool of candidates. So having something to differentiate you is important. But also having an online presence, not just as a differentiator, but also as a search engine optimizer. It brings your name to tops of lists when people are searching for you in candidate pools, in applicant tracking systems. There's lots of reasons why having a strong online presence can be a differentiator in the search process. And that's where we're going to get started today, is talking a little bit more about your online presence. And in the employment world, when I say that, I really mean LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the professional networking site. It's a place to go almost regardless of your field. And I say that because you may have a field specific, industry specific online place where you can be visible and present. The advice I give for LinkedIn would apply there as well. But oftentimes recruiters and people who have a secondary presence on those sites will come to LinkedIn as well. So it's a great place to have a home base for your online presence. So there are some bare bones things I'm sure you already all have. Having a professional picture, you don't have to look angry like I do in mine. I need to take a new one there, but having a professional picture, having a headline that talks about who you are. When people search for you, they're going to see your picture and your headline. For you, if you're unemployed currently, that can be something like aspiring marketing professional, or experienced ... If you don't have a job title there, it can be something that describes who you are or who you want to be. Your summary statement, this is the place where you can really shine and give people a sense of your true character and true passion for the field that you're entering. Oftentimes when I work with people on their resumes, they say, oh, this is so dull. I just want to tell somebody who I am and why I want this job. This is where you can do it. Obviously, you're doing it in a very general way in your LinkedIn summary, but it's a place where you can really craft the statement about who you are, what's your mission. I think oftentimes about starting with why. What's your why? Like, why do you want to do this work? This is a great place to put that type of content. In your experience section, there's not much here that I'm sure you haven't already done. One thing I recommend is utilizing this space to speak in the first person. So as opposed to having bullet points under the work that you did, again, talk about the value that you added to the organization in full sentences with the word I. What did you do at that job that was important, successful, sort of something that someone can read and say, oh, I want them to do that for me. Your education, obviously, you all have Suffolk on here, and I think it's really important. We'll talk about why that's more important later on in the networking piece. But you can add some content too. If you have a really good sample writing piece or a portfolio you put together, you can link that here in your education section. And then skills. This is an underlooked piece of the platform, but what's great about the LinkedIn skills is that you can add them yourself. You can say, sort of claim skills that you have experience with. You can take certification skill quizzes, as it were, to sort of authenticate that. But you can also get endorsed by people who you've worked with or you've been in class with. And that all helps sort of build a profile of what your skills are, but also changes the search engine. So when someone, LinkedIn has all of their jobs have skills called out. And so when a recruiter or a hiring manager is on here, it's going to help make matches based on the skills that you list here. So it's a great thing to look at some of the jobs in LinkedIn, see what skills are coming out and say, do I have that? How can I highlight that? And this is one of those places. That's what we tell everybody. That's the bare bones of what should be in your LinkedIn profile. There are some next level things that you can be doing to, again, set it apart. You can add a cover photo to the top just to set it apart a little bit, something that's professional and that sort of gives a sense of your personality or what you add. You can add media right to the top of your profile in this featured section. So again, if you've written an article, if there's a website that you want to direct people to with your work, if there's something that you've commented on LinkedIn, pin that right to the top of your profile. And that's some good media content that someone can dig into right away. On top of skill endorsements, you can get recommendations. And again, this is something that when people find your resume, think about what they're going to do first. They're going to Google you. They're going to say, who is this person? Let me find out more. Hopefully, one of the first things that comes up is your LinkedIn profile, or you've put your LinkedIn profile right on your resume. Once they're here, they can get recommendations without even asking you for them. This is a very impactful and long-lasting, serves a lot of purposes having this recommendation on your profile because many people can read it. So it's much better than just a letter written to a particular employer. So think about who in your life, in your professional or academic experience, might be able to vouch for you on LinkedIn because it adds a ton of value. So that's an ask that you can be making to your network at this point. And again, coming back to those licenses and certifications, if you have licenses, you can add those in here and talk about, if you are certified in any clinical skills or laboratory skills or professional skills, you can add those certifications. You can also engage in LinkedIn Learning. And there is a small cost there, but I do highly recommend it as a place where you can quickly learn and then sort of validate through your profile that you've gained a particular skill. So for my profile here, you can see that I was really engaging in strategic thinking and planning skills coming into this role. It's something I really wanted to show off when I was applying for this job. When you are thinking about the different skills that you might want to highlight or use to differentiate yourself, that's something that can show up right in your profile. So again, LinkedIn Learning is a great place to add these certifications and skills to your online presence. Always recommend changing your URL. It starts off as /8532x. Change it to your name. I got very lucky and got Dave Merry. See if you can get your name. That's another search engine optimizer. So when they're looking for you, you come right up. It also means you can easily sort of put this right on your resume and someone can type it in. It's not going to look strange and out of place when you put this somewhere. Because ideally, if you've done all this, you want people to end up on your LinkedIn page. So that URL is something you can edit and have it be your name. And don't do all this work and have it be private. I believe that it defaults to public, but just make sure that you have that. You don't want it to be just your connections who see what you have. You want everybody to see this good work and this content. So now you've done all this work, and that's really the online presence that you're putting forward. Who are you? What are your values? What are your skills? What sets you apart? And again, in a world where there are many, many more applicants, again, 4% unemployment for college graduates, but twice as many people as there were last January. So there's different ways to think about that. So you're going to want to stand out, and that online presence is a great way to do it. Everyone's going to probably Google you, and hopefully one of the first things they find is your LinkedIn. Amazing if they see all that content. But how can you then actively utilize LinkedIn as a way to connect with others and build that social capital? I highly recommend building your network out on LinkedIn through connecting with others, whether that be people you know already or their connections. When you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, you always want to do it with a message. I put that asterisk there because if your college roommate is on there and you talk to them frequently and you connect, you probably don't need to send them a message. They'll accept. But if you're connecting with an old professor, an old employer, a coworker, or especially if you're connecting with someone who's a second degree connection, so your uncle's coworker who you think has a great job and you want to connect with, you always want to have something in there that says, why are you connecting with them? And that's a big differentiator. You see a big uptick in how many of those get accepted because you can say, hi, I'm so-and-so's nephew. I really aspire to work in your field. I'd love to connect with you. Thanks so much. those don't get turned down. Those more often than not get accepted. So highly recommend adding a note to those. You want to connect confidently but strategically. So I think once people hear that your account can be shut down for having too many connections declined, they get a little skittish. And that's true. You don't want to be out there machine gun connecting to people on LinkedIn. It's not an effective use of your time or other people's time. That being said, if you're strategic, you can be really confident in connecting with people if you send them a message and you can say, here's why I'm connecting with you. Just doing that in itself sets a limit on how much you can do every day. And if you're thinking about a real reason that you're connecting with them, they're going to say yes. And so I would say go for it, but do it strategically. Another way to connect with people is to join groups. So by connecting with someone one-on-one, you can direct message them, and that's a great way for them to you to show up in their feed on LinkedIn. But you can also have similar types of interactions by joining groups. So think about what professional organizations might exist or sort of ad hoc organizations on LinkedIn for your professional interests. Join those groups, be part of those conversations, be a presence there, and then make more connections based on who you see there. I saw your post in the career counselors group. That was really insightful. I'd love to be connected with you. And that's a great way, again, to build out that. But this is also a place where a lot of times jobs will get posted right away. Someone gets the okay to post a job at their company and they want applicants. So they're going to bring it to the groups that make sense and post a link and say, hey, we just got this posted. Please share this job. By being on these groups, you're going to hear about that first. Two groups, or one group potentially, depending on what school you're an alumni from, that I would highly recommend or most very strongly recommend are the alumni groups. So go ahead and search for the Suffolk University alumni group or the law school alumni group. And those are great organizations to be part of to find out more about what your fellow alums are doing professionally. They're going to be great people in your network to connect with. You already have that connection. They know the quality of your undergraduate experience, and people just feel a lot more empathy and willingness to help when you have that connection. On top of that, outside of the organizations and groups for alumni at Suffolk, you can do a specific Suffolk alumni search. And so by searching for Suffolk and going to the alumni search page, there are lots of tutorials on how to do this. You can narrow down the list of, what are we up to now? 41,445 alumni of Suffolk University. And that's just by dint of having Suffolk be part of their education on their profile. So if you want to do that, you're part of this list as well. But you can narrow this down by year of graduation, where they work, whether it be field or company or both, what they studied, what city they live in. And so it's a great way to sort of narrow down this list of people to a group that's a really rich pool of alumni for you to reach out to and say, hey, I see that you're a 2010 graduate of my program, working in a really cool organization. I'd love to get coffee. I'd love to talk on Zoom and find out more about what you do. So it's a great way to reach out to those folks, find people who can strategically help you get into the doors that you need to be getting into. Some other ways to raise your visibility and to sort of connect with others by dint of sort of being on their radar is to, on your, in groups and also on your feed on LinkedIn, be liking and commenting on posts that come up. So for example, Farouk Day is somebody in my field who I want him to know who I am. I think he's doing some really cool stuff and he's somebody who I'd like to be part of his professional network. We're connected, but does he know who I am? But one thing I can be doing is commenting on his post and saying, that's great work, Farouk. I really appreciate all the work you're doing. Keep it up. Or I can like posts, and all of those things sort of have my name come up in his radar more often. It's a way of adding back to that conversation. So just like on Facebook, it's a way of staying connected with somebody in a sort of a low stakes way. You can also add to those news feeds, again, in organization pages or on your main feed of everyone you're connected with by posting. And this is something that I highly recommend you do. It does a number of things. It makes you a more easily found person in the search engine algorithms of LinkedIn. When someone is posting a job, you're more likely to come up as the automatic people who have the skills and profile that match that job. It means you're going to be more seen by people in their feeds when they log in. They're going to say, "Oh, look, Dave posted again. Interesting content." And also it's a way of sort of demonstrating by the content of that post, your skills, your thoughtfulness, the way you're engaging in the field. So what can those posts be? Oftentimes it can be articles or news stories about things happening related to the field that you're passionate about. So for me, I might have posted that Indeed article and said, wow, Indeed's doing some great work around helping new graduates get hired. Great to see what they're doing here, and share that link. And that's something I'm adding that value to the community, and I'm showing up in people's news feeds. Doing that once is good, but as you can think about any sort of feed-based system, it's gone. So doing it regularly is really helpful. So thinking about once or twice a week, could you have something going up on there? And that's where we talk about having the job search be your job. It's maintaining this presence online is a part of that. And one sort of like third level recommendation I might have is setting something like a Buffer or Hootsuite, some of these social media managers, where you can on a Sunday say, here are the next 5 things I want to go out, and schedule them for the next 5 weeks. So you can set it and forget it in one fell swoop. And that's one way to sort of keep that consistency in your posting in LinkedIn. You don't have to go that far. You could just be somebody set an alarm for every Monday and post something. But just that consistency goes a long way. LinkedIn's great for a number of reasons, and I'm focusing on it intentionally in this presentation because there's so much you can do here to make some headway in your job search. Regardless, again, of your field, you're going to find value here. And so you can search for jobs. This is maybe where you're going to find some field-specific differences, where certain fields are more prevalently posting jobs here, and certain fields are not posting here, but are having dialogue. But I would highly recommend searching for job openings here. Again, you'll find on those job openings that skills come up, very discrete, clickable skills that people are looking for within those roles, that you can then go back and see if you match on your profile. And you might over time say, this particular skill keeps coming up in jobs that like, either I need to get it or I have it. I need to talk more about it. And lastly, you can show that you're looking. One thing that I think sometimes recent graduates don't know much about is the recruiting process. There are people who are paid to find candidates for jobs. And so recruiters are using LinkedIn more than anybody else. They are on here and they have special access. And so you can actually have a setting on LinkedIn that shows recruiters that you're actively searching. And that means that you'll show up on their radars when they do a search on their sort of back-end look at the LinkedIn service that they pay for. But you can also show everybody on LinkedIn that you're looking. And this is really for people who are not employed currently. You would not want to do it if you were in a job and secretly didn't like it and were looking for something else. You wouldn't want to do this open to all LinkedIn members. You wouldn't have wanted to do it anyways, but now it actually adds this hashtag open to work frame around your photo. So if you are in a job that you don't want to lose right now, don't do that. I highly recommend clicking just recruiters only. But if you want everyone to really know and it's very open, like, hey, I'm looking to work right now, then add that frame, click that checkbox to say all LinkedIn members, show them that I'm looking. I'd say it started about 10 months ago, and early on, I wasn't sure what the reception would be for everybody, if that would be how people would take it, if it would be effective or not. There's been a lot of feedback from people that it's highly effective. When you see this from somebody, you reach out to them more. People are more likely to reach out to you and say, hey, I saw this job opening. I saw that you're open to work. Check this out. So it's just a really easy way, a very quickly identifiable way to find people who are impacted by the pandemic more often than not. And what you'll find is that reason for being out of a job is people are incredibly empathetic to that. And this frame helps leverage that sense of community around helping to rectify the employment situation. So unless you're in a job currently and you don't want them to know you're looking, that's what I'd recommend doing. So I want to talk a little bit more about some of the resources that we have related to everything going on, and I'll start with some videos that we have of workshops. So some of our career advisors have done workshops within the past year via Zoom on LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn Part 1 workshop is mostly about building your profile. So all the pieces about how to really add value and content to your profile. LinkedIn Part 2 is that networking, building social capital piece. And so they're both great resources, and they're on our website. So suffolk.edu/careers, you'll see all of the recordings of events that we've had over the past year. You'll see upcoming events too. As an alumni, you're always welcome, but these recordings are there from previous events. So coming back to that job search during a pandemic, so leaving LinkedIn for a minute, which again, I think if you are actively searching and you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling like there's not movement, there are lots of levers you can pull in LinkedIn on a regular basis to sort of gain more traction, get more visibility. So just to put a cap on that. Coming back to the job search, as you've seen, it's an employer's market. And so you need to be a little bit more active in the job search, and that'll pay off. So some of the ways you can do that: targeting your resume to each position and writing a unique cover letter for each role. If a cover letter is not required for the job, write a cover letter. The only time I would not recommend writing a cover letter is if it specifically states somewhere, please do not include a cover letter. And sometimes people will say that if they know they're getting tons of applications and maybe they don't have time to read it. That's very infrequent. Either it'll be required or there'll be nothing about it. Add that cover letter. I probably said the word differentiation too much today. I can't say it enough. How do you stand out from that pack? So in your resume, when someone sees your resume, the first thing they want to say is, oh, wow, they're a perfect fit. So what can you do on that version of your resume to highlight, to bring to the top of your resume, very specific words, experiences, key phrases that align with the job? And same thing with the cover letter. It's pretty obvious when someone has one cover letter for many different types of positions. But when you have a cover letter that specifically says, this job at this company really speaks to my values and to my experience. I see that you're doing this. I want to be a part of that. That stands out, and it's worth your while. So those are the types of extra steps I recommend to differentiate yourself. We have some more videos. These are, again, workshops that we give, but we have them recorded this year because Zoom. So those resources are all in one place. All these videos, thumbnails that you see are housed together. But you can see designing your best resume and composing your cover letter videos on that suffolk.edu/careers website. Again, just reemphasizing this, 10 months into COVID, employers expect you to be polished in your visual presentation. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when I go into interviews, but just be thinking about how much practice have you had communicating online. Depending on what your employment situation has been, you may not have been on Zoom as much as the people who are interviewing you. They all might feel very comfortable, and it could feel strange if you're not comfortable in that situation yet. So thinking about what types of experience or practice you can get there. And it's even more important to have clear and timely communication. So because we're not really meeting people in person during interviews or in networking, staying on top of your email, being clear and concise, getting a good sense of tone and personality in your communications online was always important. We've been talking about this since email was a thing. Again, it's just a heightened sense of importance there because there's really sometimes no physical presence to back it up. There's a great video about strategizing your job search that talks about a lot of those concepts and everything we talked about in LinkedIn as well. So that's a nice meaty video to get into, both about how to think about your job search as a timeline, as a full-time job, but also what types of job boards you can be utilizing outside of LinkedIn. Christelle, who does this presentation, does a great job showing different job boards and what their various values are. So all of this is assuming that one of the sticking points that you may be having is getting a call. You're applying to jobs, you're not getting a call. You can address that by being more visible online, by making connections, by being present, by being one of the first applicants, by having a targeted resume and cover letter. Once you get past that step and you're getting interviewed, it's a different ballgame. All of that stuff was important. It'll be part of people's mental model of who you are, but you made it. They did their job. They got you to the interview. So now from then on, it's a new game. You're entering sort of the next phase of work in that job search process. And again, this is where some of the old practices that were always tried and true and important are still important, but even more so. So still dress professionally. Some of these things feel like they go without saying, but you'd be surprised. And I just want to emphasize it can feel easy to feel lax. when you're at home, but still dress up for your interview. Make sure you have no distractions. Whatever you can do to make sure that your family, your pets, your neighbors are not going to be a distraction. Again, people will understand, but you don't want them to be thinking about, oh, that whole time that cat was meowing in the background. Even if it's not your fault and even if they don't know it, you don't want someone distracted from what you're saying during the interview. So try to avoid that. Have a clear and orderly background. So avoid being in your bedroom with your bed behind, even if everything's clean. You don't want that, like, oh, that's his bed. That's his hamper. You don't want that to be part of your experience. So you can do what I did early on is just turn the desk and face the wall. It's boring, but boring is great because you can focus on what people are saying, not where they are. And so have that background be really inconsequential. Virtual backgrounds, you might think, oh, let's put one of the virtual backgrounds and you won't see what's behind me. They rarely look clean. They're usually distracting in some ways. It's totally fine if you're talking with someone you know well and you're not trying to impress them. Once you're on the job, use one, but it can be distracting if it's a first impression. So just think about that during your interview. Test out your setup 15 minutes before. I got on this call 15 minutes before to meet with my colleagues, and I said, oh, my mic's not working. What's going on here? You don't want that to be happening during. You want it to happen before. So I'm glad I logged in early. So for your interview, do that as well. And log into the interview 5 to 7 minutes early. That's one of the pieces of protocol that sometimes people have questions about. You know when you would show up for an in-person interview. For a Zoom interview, log in 5 to 7 minutes early. You're more than likely will be put into a Zoom waiting room, and that's totally appropriate. Don't feel like you're going to be too early. More often than not, usually they're going to have some protocols in place where you're not just going to show up into the room with the interviewers. You'll be in a waiting room at that point. The interviews, the personal touch and timely communication is more important than ever. So this is important leading up to an interview, making sure that you are writing back to any offers for the interview, but especially after an interview. Thank you notes are so critical, but you've never met this person still. You've gone to an interview, you've left, they've never met you in person. So anything you can do to really add that personal touch after an interview is even more valuable. Do not forget a thank you note and have it happen within the day. Because things are happening over email now and because a lot of search processes can be quick, you want that thank you note to come pretty much on the heels of your interview. And you want it to be personal, not just thank you for the interview, but thank you so much. I really appreciated how you noticed this. I think that my experience with this aspect of my past work would really help with this problem you identified. But again, the more specific, the better. Expect a slower than usual process. I know it's funny when I just said they can go quickly, but things, again, timelines are really just all over the map these days. So don't be discouraged if you have a slower than usual timeline. Ask at the end of the interview what their anticipated timeline is. That's a great last question. So any more questions from you, interviewee? Yeah, just one more. Can you tell me what's the timeline for the rest of the interview process? That'll give you a sense. So if they say it'll be 2 more weeks, don't call them a week later and say, hey, what's going on? You know that you have 2 weeks. After that, you can reach back out and say, just wanted to check in. I'm really excited about this role. Thanks again so much. So keeping that communication in an appropriate timeline, knowing where they are in the process and checking in. You can manage multiple processes simultaneously. And more than ever, I would recommend that you do so. I never know when something's going to stall out or not get completed because of a budget change or something happening. So I would encourage you, even if you have an interview, keep the other parts of your process going so that you have something else in the wings. And make sure you stay organized and strategic around that. Have the Excel spreadsheet with where am I applying? Who have I talked to at that place? We just talked to a candidate at one of the jobs that we have open in the Career Center who sent a thank you note to the wrong person for a different job she's applying to somewhere else. When you're applying to lots of places, that can happen. Don't be that person. And it's more beneficial than ever to maintain positive contact with employers if you're not hired. So thinking about, you get the email, Mr. Mary, thank you so much for applying. Unfortunately, at this time, we're moving forward with another candidate. That's a bummer. But that's a great time to, especially if you felt really good about the job and the company and the people, to maintain positive contact with the people you met with during the interview. Because more than likely, they had more candidates than usual. They might have been, oh God, we wish we could have hired them, but we had to go with this other person. They have more of those opportunities, and we know we're getting into a better employment market soon. So when things come up, you'll be top of mind for them. So think about ways that you can stay connected with them on LinkedIn, stay positive afterwards when you get the rejection. Say, thank you so much. I'd love to work with you in the future. Go with your gut, read the room. If you really vibed with them, say, I totally understand. I would still love to meet with you to find out more about this. That's appropriate depending on how the interview went. So, think about how you can leverage that interaction, which is so rare these days. You talk to an employer who's hiring, it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the conversation. So think about ways that you can utilize that in the future. And again, we have this great video on mastering your interview skills with the master herself, Laura Marchant. So it's a great video. The skills here are applicable regardless. There are lots of tutorials online about specifically virtual interviews, but the ways to prepare for answers, those are tried and true and timeless. So some of the resources that we have at Suffolk, I've been sort of showing you thumbnails of videos that are of workshops we've given over the past year about these different topics. We have a specific COVID-19 job search resource page, and this is something that went up actually prior to my arrival at Suffolk. I started at Suffolk in July. This went up, I believe, in March last year, pretty early on, and it's been kept up to date with resources. So if you scroll down, you'll see breakout menus of lots of different tools and resources, many of which I've referenced in this presentation. So I highly recommend scroll through the website, suffolk.edu/careers. We also have a number of events coming up. So next week, starting on the 22nd, we have 2 weeks called Career Weeks. You'll see a number of the events that are happening. I'll practice your elevator pitch open mic. We have some fellow alums coming to help current students with that. Many of these events, if you want to reach out, some of them are open to alumni. Many of them are. If you have your Suffolk email address, you can log into Handshake and sign up for these events. But the one that I know you specifically can sign up for, because we set it up this way, is our job fair. So we have a virtual job fair on March 4th from 1 to 4 p.m. And we are encouraging recent alumni to come to this event. And the employers who are coming know that there'll be some recent alumni there as well. And so they're excited to have sort of people who will be graduating, the seniors now, but also some of the folks in your class years coming as well. So again, that's in Handshake. You can find more information on our website about the career fair. And as always, you can sign up for and get involved as much as you like in advising and coaching through our office. One of the things I've been working on since I got here in July is building out our team. And so we're really fortunate to be going from a team of 5 individuals to a team of 21 by the end of April. So we'll be about quadruple in size, a lot more resources to take advantage of. But we have always had, and we continue to have, our drop-in hours and our virtual appointments every day with career advisors. So you can log in. There's directions on either how to utilize your Suffolk ID in your email from when you were a student. And if you don't have access to those anymore, there's instructions online about how to get access to Handshake and schedule an appointment, or you can just give us a call. And we love working with alums, especially because you're right in the thick of it. It's not theoretical, it's happening right now. And some of the new hires that I'm excited for, we're bringing in and actually interviewing currently 2 new individuals who are specifically focusing on the alumni experience. So seniors transitioning into the alumni roles, and then folks who are currently alumni. And so they'll be joining us in April. And so those will be 2 people who are dedicated resources for alumni and people who were excited for you to meet. As always, and at any time, I would welcome any questions that you have. So please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my email is dmerry@suffolk.edu. And really, any questions that you have, any feedback, as we grow the center out, we want to hear from alumni. What are your experiences? What's working well? What questions do you have? What hasn't worked well that we can really shape differently in the future? And if you have any questions about your own job search, please feel free to reach out. I love helping where I can and connecting with others where I can't. So with that, I'd love to open it up to any questions that came up during our presentation.
And I'm back. Everybody, thank you so much for asking questions in the chat. We have a lot of really fantastic questions, and we're going to try to get to as many as possible. So we'll just jump right in. So somebody came to this virtual event. they got a job offer, they went through the interview, they updated their LinkedIn. Right now, a lot of organizations are strapped for cash. Are people in a position where they really can negotiate their salary, or is it not appropriate anymore?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think, I always recommend negotiating your salary. Negotiation sounds like a confrontational process. One of the other resource videos that we have that I didn't include in this presentation is a negotiation video. But it really can be just an ask, just to say, thank you so much. I'm really excited about this position. To move forward, I'm really curious, could we move it to this figure? And it's always worthwhile to ask. We're coming out of the place where finances are as much of as tight as they would have been, and people are thinking long term about their hires. If they are making you an offer, they probably want to keep you. So it's always worth that ask. As always, keep your expectations tempered, but most hiring managers will go in knowing that there's some room on the upper end to make some adjustments.
Awesome. So another thing that we actually have a few questions about, internships. There are internships available. We typically think of that as work for students. Some of them are paid. And I know from experience, I had an internship once where I had like 4 interviews, and it was a very in-depth process. Would you recommend recent graduates taking internships, or at this point, is that just not really valuable?
I think it's incredibly valuable. It's going to be very, very specific per situation, right? I think per the job, per what you need out of a job. But again, if you can find quality work related to your field or gaining you experience and a skill that you can relate to a job that you want later on, that's gold. And so take advantage of that, especially only if it's paid, to be honest. I think that's really, that's the piece there. But there are a lot of ways you can do that may not look like the traditional 8-week undergraduate internship. One of the things that I would recommend are the idea of a micro internship. It's something that has really taken off during the pandemic. Almost all of them are virtual. And one of the resources you can check out is a site called parkerdewey.com. I think it's Parker Dewey, but it's one of many sites hosting micro internships. And really what it is organizations saying, we have a small project, we need a skilled person to help us out with it for a short amount of time, like an internship, but sometimes smaller. But they're paid, and what's great is that they're vetted. The employers are really committed to finding quality workers for it, but there's also a short time span, which is nice. So you're not locked into this job that might not be what you want to be doing for a long time. So micro internships and virtual internships are something that might be even more beneficial for where you're at right now. But any type of work you can get shows that determination and is an opportunity to build your skills. So yes.
Awesome. So something else that we actually are seeing during this pandemic is a need for specific types of work. A lot of things in the gig economy. We're talking about like delivering food, delivering groceries, even working at a grocery store. And I'm sure there's many people out there who have taken jobs doing that, whether they had it while they were in school as well. So do you recommend putting that on your LinkedIn, putting it on your resume, or is that, something that really can be left off?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think, those jobs are so valuable in that with 2 reasons. One, you're getting paid. So never look down to the job that you're taking to pay, to get paid, to feed your family, to live your life, to support yourself. Those are valuable jobs. And so I always want to advocate people to not think about a job as beneath notice of a hiring manager for any sort of reason. You're in that job because it's important for you to have that job right now. Also, those are jobs where you're practicing communication skills, problem management. If you are working in a wait staff, if you are working as an Uber driver, if you are working in order fulfillment, I have some good friends who have lost their jobs and are working in delivering different, different products from different companies. First of all, you're showing that you are not, you're not beneath certain types of work. You're showing that you have determination to work where you need to. You're showing those problem-solving skills, and you can leverage that experience in an interview. That being said, I may not lead with that on a resume, not because you should be ashamed of it, but you want the stuff that's the most relevant to come up first. And there are ways you can structure a resume to have relevant experience and other experience. So by no means is it something I'd be ashamed of putting on there, but you want to really tailor your resume to the most relevant job specific stuff. Same with LinkedIn. It's something I may not put on there necessarily, but I would definitely recommend talking about in an interview a unique situation that you had during that time. And don't be ashamed if people ask about a gap in your work experience to say, yeah, during that time I was working X job. People need to pay. You may have been hearing my own children being louder than I asked them to be tonight. So you have to support your family, right? And you have to support yourself. So definitely no shame in that, and lots of great applicable skills you can transfer into an interview setting.
Absolutely. And do you recommend temp work or going through a temp agency, or do you not really see a lot of value in that?
There can be, depending on the types of jobs that you want. The temp to full-time experience is less of a reliable pipeline than it has been in the past. So if you're going through it for that experience, again, it's very different and very situational. It's hard to say yes, do it, or no, don't do it. It's very situational. But sometimes it can be a way to get your foot in the door at a company that still is there, but more often than not, employers are looking at it as short-term employment that they won't need for a long term, as opposed to short-term employment as they grow that they want to make full-time. So consider that. Be really honest with the people in the organization about what the options are for full-time after that temp experience. And again, no job is a bad job during this time. So if it's a job and you're getting paid and you're getting work experience, that's great. And if the temp agency is helping you do that, but just have some really honest conversations with them about, or some really honest understanding of what's happening at that particular company. Is this a door to full-time employment, or should you be very active in your job search during that time still? And I would encourage the latter. Don't say, I got a job, I'm going to take a break. If it's not the job that you're really happy with staying in for a while. Continue to build that online presence in the field that you want to be in after that temp position.
Makes sense. How do you think alumni should highlight their volunteer experience? We know that a lot of people volunteer while they're at Suffolk. During this pandemic, there's been so many ways to volunteer in your community, and that I think is very valuable for looking for a job. And how would you kind of work that into your LinkedIn and your resume and even your interview?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, especially anything that you've been involved in during the pandemic. Again, there's a lot of bonhomie for people who are sort of like chipping in during this time. So whether you're not employed because of the pandemic and you've been helping out because of the pandemic, all those things really work into the cultural milieu of the time, right? So definitely highlight that. On your resume, having a volunteer experience section is great. Again, when you think about a recruiter or a hiring manager, they're going to look very quickly to say, who do I want to talk to? And you want to have that relevant stuff high up. But in your resume, in a different section, having your volunteer experience in there is important. On your LinkedIn, that's a great place to put visual, I would say proof, visual evidence and artifacts of that volunteer experience. So pictures from it, or a website for the volunteer experience. Oftentimes volunteer experience can get a little bit lost, and the value of it really is the value that you brought to your community. So you can have that visual presence and really show the good work that you did in a place like LinkedIn. That's where I'd recommend having it be some of your featured content right at the top. A newspaper article about a fundraiser that you were a part of, or a picture of you doing some work in the community. That's a really excellent way to utilize visual media to show you giving back.
That's awesome. That makes a lot of sense. The idea of just having like your volunteer work as your LinkedIn photo. I love that.
Absolutely. That's a great idea.
And I think our final question tonight, we are running out of time, is about transitioning during this time. So we do have a question about transitioning to the public sector from the private sector, but kind of more broadly, is this the time to be transitioning, or is that, in 2022 when hopefully we're all vaccinated and going back to in-person events?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think should I just hang on to the job I have now and be thankful and not rock the boat now? I totally feel that feeling. That being said, it's a time of transition. Opportunities are opening up now. New jobs are opening up now. People are changing their business structures now. So now is a great time to change fields and say, hey, we all realize how important it is to be flexible, to have really differentiated skills, to be cross-trained. That's what everyone wants to hire right now. So, and I said the word differentiated way too many times, like I said. you're bringing that skill set as someone who's a career changer. So now is a great time to do it. I think be smart about it. Again, be thinking about underemployment. So just be cautious of where would you be in a different field. Sometimes it's hard to know where you might fit in terms of salary, in terms of title. And that's where having a network and having some mentors or colleagues who are in that field guide you can be really helpful. Just so you know, if you're sort of coming in because of where things are now, in sort of not backwards, but a lower salary or lower title than you might have had other times. Just be eyes wide open about that, and have a plan to sort of advance quickly afterwards. But again, this is a hugely transitional time, and it's one of the best times for companies to take a chance on someone with different skills and the ability to be flexible.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you to Dave, and thank you to all of you who are participating from home. We hope you found this helpful. Tonight has been a joint effort between the Center of Career Education, the office that Dave runs, and the Alumni Association, that's the office that I work for. And as was mentioned in the presentation, Suffolk will always be there for our alumni. So please always feel free to reach out to either office. On another note, the Alumni Association offers a wide array of programming for all alumni, ranging from career-focused events like you had tonight, to more social events, and kind of everything in between. And we hope you save the date for Suffolk Spring Week, a week of virtual programming. It will be April 23rd through April 30th. We actually have an event with Dave, and we hope to see you there. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.